God took Jacob on a lifetime journey, and where did he end it? Hello and welcome to No Crown in Heaven for Bible Knowledge, studying Genesis verse by verse. We are in chapter 46. We stopped at verse 27 and we're going to pick up from there. This is a time when finally Jacob will meet Joseph, that he thought he was dead for almost over 20 years, and he would settle with his family, with the whole family in Egypt. So let's start reading from verse 28 and read a couple of verses and we'll go into the study. Genesis 46 verse 28. Then he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out before him the way to Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. So Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. And he presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck for a good while. So this is finally Joseph meeting his father. But here we see that Jacob sent Judah. So we see that Judah here now start to become taking a leading role or a bigger place within the brothers. He's a kind of a leader now. And they meet in the land of Goshen, which is east of the Nile Delta in North Egypt, an area that obviously Joseph knew the land in Egypt after living there so far 20 years or more. He knew the land and he knew that this place would be good pasture for raising their flocks, and they're gonna settle there. So the story will continue, and you would need to read the rest of the passage. Joseph will meet his brothers and he will instruct them, when you come to see Pharaoh, he is going to ask you, what is your occupation? You say, we are shepherds and we feed flocks. So he would send you to the land of Goshen because it's a good land with good pasture. And it says here that shepherds were abomination to the Egyptians. Why? It didn't explain it, and I don't know exact reason. But in Egypt, practically there were just farmers for raising crops. They used livestock, but the main purpose was agriculture, and they considered shepherd abomination to them for some reason. So there would be some kind of a separation. So they would be in a certain area in this Goshen area, separated from the Egyptians. So they came there. Joseph took his chariot and met his father, and he instructed them. Then after that, he's gonna take 5 of his brothers, present them to Pharaoh, and he's gonna tell them, what's your occupation? That's in chapter 47. And they were gonna tell him, we are shepherds, we feed flocks from the days of our youth and from our fathers as well. So, and he would tell him, you know, the whole land of Egypt. You choose the best land to dwell in it and all that. So they come and they settle in Goshen. So the plan of Joseph to take care of his family worked out. Pharaoh approved of it, and now they are settling in this land. Let's read chapter 47, verses 4 and 5. And they said to Pharaoh, "We have come to dwell in the land because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen." Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock." So that's the outcome. Before we go to verse 7, we know that they would become slaves in Egypt for 400 years. They will be mistreated. They will have a lot of suffering. But they didn't know. They were just going, "This is great. We have great pasture. We were being taken care of. Joseph will supply everything we need. He's ruler over Egypt, and we are his brothers and his family. We're all set." The reality is God already told Abraham, as we discussed in the previous episode, that they will be slaves in a foreign land, in a strange land, for 400 years. Did Abraham communicate that to Isaac and then following to Jacob or not? We don't know. But they are coming to settle in this land with, like, we're set for life, not knowing what's coming ahead. It's like that. You buy a brand new house, 400 square feet, luxury. Everything is the way you want it. And you move in and you are set. You're set for life. Not knowing that this house would result into your bankruptcy. It's not because of bad choices, but this is life. This is how their situation here. They're thinking they're all set, but it's gonna come to calamity over their coming generations. And that's an introduction that I'm giving you about. They think they are all set, and the result will be devastating and disaster for the coming generations without knowing that. It's an introduction to what we're gonna see from the coming conversation between Jacob and Pharaoh. And Jacob will say one word that changed the whole perspective of his own life. So we're going to read the conversation, and we're going to go over Jacob's life from start to finish, with each stage in his life and the outcome and the conclusion that he came up to. So verse 7, then Joseph brought in his father Jacob and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Jacob, how old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my father in the days of their pilgrimage. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. Before we continue, I did a mistake in last episode about years calculation, and I mentioned that from the time Abraham came to the land of Canaan to the time Jacob and his family left the land of Canaan was 220 years. That's actually 215 years because I calculated that Jacob was 135 at the time of going to Egypt, but he's actually was 130. I calculated from my memory, but my memory is incorrect on that. So that's just a correction for what I mentioned last episode. But here, Jacob is telling Pharaoh, answering his question, starting with this, the days of the years of my pilgrimage. So he came to the conclusion of that. I'm a stranger in this world. And then he will continue, 130 years, few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. So he is recognizing that for his fathers as well. Abraham and Isaac. Abraham lived 175 years. Isaac lived 180 years. He is 130. He's probably start to feel the old age, knowing that his life is not going to be as long as his father's. So that's why he's saying that. We will find out that, in the rest of the passage, that he lived up to 147 years. So he's going to live another 17 years in Egypt before he dies. But the word that I wanted to focus on, pilgrimage, his conclusion of life. And we want to just display his life briefly from start to finish. And then I will make the connection why I made the introduction of they settled in this land thinking we are set for life, and then they ended up to be slaves for generation after generation after generation. So Jacob started his life living in his parents, with his parents. He was loved by his mother, Rebecca. And when his brother Esau was in a weak point, he took advantage of that and made him sell his birthright. So he had self-ambition. Now, that doesn't relieve Esau from his responsibility that he despised God's promise and despised his birthright. But Jacob took advantage of a person in need. And then he stole the blessing and lied to his father and deceived his father, listening to his mother's advice. So that's the start of his life. He wanted to be set, like they feel they are all set in the land of Goshen. And he wanted to reach that, I'm all set for life. I have the birthright, I have the blessing, and his view of the blessing was not a blessing from above, it was a blessing for wealth and materials. Now Esau gets angry and he vows to kill him, and his mother will tell him to go, and then his father tell him to go to Laban and get a wife from there. So now he's on his way to Laban. In his mind, he's gonna go get a wife and come back. And God meet him on the way and give him a promise. I will give you this land. And Jacob, if you give me food and clothes and bring me back safe to my father's house, then I will worship you. So his mentality about God is, bless me and then I will think about you. That's his mentality. He goes to Laban and he fell in love with Rachel, and he served 7 years for her, and he got deceived and given Leah, and then a week later he was given Rachel, but he had to serve another 7 years. Then Laban will tell him, stay with me, and he will stay with him. So he's serving Laban for the 2 wives for 14 years, and he will get even with Laban in the 6 years after that, that he would manipulate the breeding of the flocks to gain more and more and more flocks for his own, and so forth. So now he's still pursuing to be all set. A family, children, flocks, all that, and then he will head back to his father's house. And Jesus will meet him on his way back, and he would tell him, they will wrestle, and Jacob, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Now he's receiving the blessing from above, from God. yet he's not living according. He's like a believer who has encounter with Jesus, but still living the life for himself. So instead of, I don't know you, God, I'm going to do what I need to get by and to get established and to get all set in my life. But now it's changed. I worship you. You are my God. But I'm still afraid of Esau, and I'm gonna go the other way. And he goes to Shechem and live there, and then he moved to Beersheba and live there. All this life, it's life similar to a lukewarm Christian, until a certain point God will appear to him again and go to Bethel, and he would go to Bethel, and then he would say, now I'm gonna make my life serious about the Lord. You guys have idols and you have evil practices. Clean your hands, remove the idols, and change your garments. And he was established. Now he would start to establish a godly life in his household. That was kind of too late, because now his children already learned and from him the way of deceiving and doing all that, until he loses Joseph, and that will break him. Will break his heart, obviously, as a father, concluding that Joseph was dead. And now he's find out Joseph is alive, and he comes to meet him, and they meet him, and now we're all set. Joseph he's the ruler of Egypt, and he's taking care of us. But he said, years of my pilgrimage. He finally got to that position with God, all set doesn't mean anything. And his lifespan for this 130 years has gone from a wicked person who's deceiving and taking advantage and deceiving again with Laban and lying to Esau, I'm going to follow you, and allowing his household to have idols and wrong practices, and then come to, okay, we're going to make this right with God, and then he start to live godly. And finally he come to this conclusion: I'm stranger in this land, in this life. The whole story of my life, it really didn't matter anything. Anything I did to get all taken care of, or whatever, it didn't really matter, because now his understanding of the end of life, he's coming to close to the end of his life, and he understands this world is not my home. In the Old Testament, they didn't have clear understanding of end of time, eternal life, but there was understanding, that's even before Moses' law, understanding of the resurrection. Because even Abraham, it talks about Abraham when he offered Isaac, he believed that if he was dead, God would raise him again. So there was a conviction of life after death, and this life would be either a reward in heaven with God or damnation away from God. That concept was already established without even scripture. So he came to that conclusion of this life is a pilgrimage. All my years is pilgrimage, and I am stranger in this world, and this world is not my home. So now I want to put myself where I'm now in my life. Where am I within all these stages of Jacob's life? What period of his life that represent me today in my relationship with God? Am I still away doing my own thing, whatever kind of life, pursuing happiness, pursuing being sad, pursuing being wealthy, or pursuing whatever thing in this world that I have desire? Or have I already come to a relationship with God, but I am living a life like whatever, I can do whatever, I can allow myself to watch evil thing, I'll allow myself to cheat on my taxes, or allow myself to lie to people to protect myself in certain situation, or whatever this thing, because still I am looking at this world, I'm looking at, I want to be all set in this life, or I have already passed to the next step after God called Jacob to go to Bethel, and he cleaned his house from all these practices. Am I in that stage of committed to live godly and be living holy for God? Or have I come to the conclusion that all that in the past means nothing because I'm a stranger in this world and I'm focusing on the kingdom of God and I'm pilgrimage? So I'm going to read a few verses from the New Testament that explain this pilgrimage attitude of Jacob. What does he mean by saying that? So Matthew 6:19, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And Jacob's heart at that point, when he was replying to Pharaoh, was not in Goshen as maybe his children were, but it was already, this is all nothing. My life is going to end and I'm going to be with the Lord. He could have lived 50 years more, but the mentality has already, he had already reached that treasures in heaven. That's my goal. Not to be all set here on earth. It doesn't really matter. That's what he had reached at that point. 2 Corinthians 5:1, for we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. So that's the same attitude, the same mentality. And my favorite verse in the whole Bible, Hebrews 13:14, for here we have no continuing city, but we seek the one to come. So this word pilgrimage that Jacob mentioned twice about himself and about his fathers, that the whole life is just a journey to what to come. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek the one to come. So each one of us have to look at Jacob's life and put yourself where that period in his life that matches you today. And here's what happened. God is the one who took him from the start, when he took advantage of Esau, all the way until he's coming back to finally meet Joseph again. And all that to him, he was considering a journey to find the purpose of my life. They always say, well, God has a purpose for your life. All that doesn't matter. Your ministry, it doesn't matter. Your life, your obedience to God, your teaching your children, your taking care of people, you're helping out, all that is good, but it's not the purpose of your life. That's the way God is changing you for the purpose of being with him for eternity. That's the real purpose of your life, of my life, to have laying treasures in heaven where your heart should be. If your heart is not there, if your desires are not for Jesus' return, then you're still gonna be trying to all be all set here on earth, doing whatever you can do. There is nothing wrong of doing all what we do on earth here, work or investment or taking care of people, taking care of our houses, making sure things are in right order. There is nothing wrong with that. But where my heart is, and Jacob came to that, all that is just a journey. It's just a journey to reach the end of it and to be with God. Before I conclude this episode, I want to remind you that after we finish Genesis, I will have a few videos about Islam, just putting Christianity and Islam side by side, and teaching about their faith, what they believe, compared to what we believe, because that's important for Christians to understand in these days. So please tune for that. If you know somebody needs to know this information, invite them. If you know a Muslim that you can invite them to watch these videos as well, you're more than welcome to do so. So until next episode, we're going to continue in chapter 47. We have a few chapters left in Genesis, and then we'll go into the study about Islam. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and please subscribe.